Welcome to the Silver Bullets Podcast on the Ozone Radio Network, your authority on all things Ohio State. And now, here are your hosts, Shannon Sommers and Eric at the BBC. Hey there, Buckeye Nation. Welcome to another edition of the Silver Bullets Podcast on the Ozone Radio Network. I'm your host, Shannon Sommers. Today we're going to be discussing the Ohio State men's basketball team, which means I have my man Eric here with me. Eric, how are we doing today?
Doing all right. How are you doing?
Doing great. Let's first start off with there's some awards that have been handed out for Ohio State, and the next time somebody tells me that Ohio State's a football school, I'm just going to have to show them that, since Earl Bruce won Coach of the Year in 1979, there have been 8 different times Ohio State coaches have won Big Ten Coach of the Year, and Chris Holtmann just became the 8th one. So, what are your thoughts on that?
You mean in basketball?
What'd I say?
You were ambiguous. You didn't specify the sport.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, hopefully our listeners know.
8 times our basketball coaches have won
yes.
the Coach of the Year. So Coach of the Year is a goofy award, as we've always seen with Kirk Ferentz constantly winning it because, quote unquote, he does the most with the least amount of talent. I think that's the biggest load of crap on the planet. I'm sorry, if you're able to recruit an ass load of talent, then, well, you're a pretty damn good coach. And if you can keep them playing at a high level, you're a pretty damn good coach too. But that's really a subject for a football podcast rather than a basketball podcast. No, this is well-deserved for Chris Holtmann. The expectations were not high for this team. We knew that Holtmann was a good coach. We did not know how good he was. And this season proves that he is, in fact, an excellent coach. Now, one season is not the be-all, end-all of a coach's career, but it's a damn good start.
Yeah, it's nice to see. We kind of been saying all year that the job that Chris Holtmann's been doing is definitely been Big Ten Coach of the Year material. Especially since beginning of season, everybody was predicting them to finish like 11th in the conference, and here they are, the number 2 seed going into the tournament, and just fell one game behind of Michigan State in order to win a share of the Big Ten regular season title. So congratulations to him. Another not shocking prediction that we've been saying for a while now is that Keita Bates-Diop is Big Ten Player of the Year, and he's also first team all Big Ten. What are your thoughts on that one?
To be fair, I'm a little surprised. I tend to have a pessimistic view about postseason awards, especially when the media picks a favorite and goes after them for a long period of time. We've been talking about Keita Bates-Diop winning it for the last 6 to 8 weeks, but you could have seen a Carson Edwards or a Vincent Edwards out of Purdue possibly winning it. They were both very good players. You could imagine that Tony Carr might have picked up some votes, or Miles Bridges out of Michigan State might have picked it up. Bear in mind that Edwards, Carr, Bates-Diop, and Bridges were all picked to the first team Big Ten coaches basketball team. So they were certainly legitimate contenders for that position. So it's very much a well-deserved award for Bates-Diop. The fact that he was able to win it speaks a lot about how people viewed his play this year. He's been a spectacular player. I think he's second in the conference in scoring. He's tied for second in rebounds. He's 6th in blocked shots. He stuffed the stat sheet. And I'm not much of a voting on the stat sheets kind of guy. I'm a voting for the guy who seems like he puts in the best effort, plays his best game when his team needs him the most. And Bates-Diop really fills that role as well. Just an all-around excellent basketball player.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And everything he's been through with the injuries last couple of years and stuff like that, and stuff with his brother. And, it's nice to see him, finish up on top, and in regards to just as far as his peers in the media, what they think of him. So I think that was very good. And speaking of the media, also the other awards that were handed out was Jashawn Tate was second team all Big Ten, and Caleb Wesson was freshman of the year, or not freshman of the year, but he made the all freshman Big Ten team.
Caleb Wesson.
Caleb. Caleb.
First.
Caleb.
Caleb Wesson.
Speaking is not my strong suit.
I will not say anything more.
So yeah, it's it's nice to see that, the Buckeyes finished with a handful of honors. We'll have you, but now they have to focus and turn their attention onto the Big Ten tournament, which they will be starting on Friday. But before we do that, they locked down the number 2 seed, and the only reason they knocked down the number 2 seed was a shot where, let's say, everybody that was a Buckeyes fan was screaming, CJ, what are you thinking? And then when it went in, CJ, you are the man.
So amusingly, I actually wasn't screaming that. He dribbled the ball down the court and he popped that shot with a minute and a half or a second and a half left to go. And I'm sitting there thinking, honestly, that's not the worst shot. Maybe that's not the exact player you want taking that shot at the end of the game, but whether it's Keita Bates-Diop or Cam Williams, I've seen them all miss big shots. I've seen them all make big shots. So I've seen CJ Jackson hit a few 3-pointers, maybe not quite from that range, but let's see what happens. Damn, nothing but net. Did not touch the rim, barely touched the net. That was an impressive shot.
It was. Right? It definitely was. I mean, it was definitely afterwards you're like, yes. But I mean.
Oh, yeah. I scared a cat and my wife with the shout I gave. That was an exciting shot, and lots of credit to CJ Jackson. The joke on Twitter was that he looked off Caleb Bates-Diop before he dropped it. And I had to laugh. That was pretty accurate. He looked over at Bates-Diop and said, "Yeah, what the hell?" and jacked that shot up. But right on the money, exactly when we needed it to take out the Indiana Hoosiers, 80-78 in 2 overtimes. That's a really good shot heading into postseason play.
Now, does this game remind you, or did it have a feel to you of what was that one in '91, where they had the double overtime victory against Indiana in St. John's Arena?
I hate to make you feel really old, but I was 8 years old when that game happened. So, yes, it reminds me as much as I can remember of that game, and I've watched highlights of it since being old enough to be able to remember it. So I know a little bit of that game, but I very vaguely remember that basketball game live. But yeah, there are some similarities. What it really reminds me of is William Buford hitting the shot against Michigan State at Michigan State to silence the crowd back in 2011 or 2012.
Yeah.
That was the game that it really reminded me of. A decent, not the team's best long range shooter, but a decent shooter going up, putting up a good shot, nothing but net, and silencing the opposing crowd.
Yeah, I liked, because I had to put on Twitter that, the Hoosiers have to learn to not double overtime the Buckeyes, because it has not been good for them. And I haven't looked up to see how many. I just remember those 2 games offhand. And for the record, I was only 17 in '91 when I graduated high school. So I just don't want to feel like, where's my cane and where's my walker at here?
I'm already feeling like, where's my cane and where's my walker? You'd be in good company.
Yes. So, all right. Yeah. It was a nice win for the Buckeyes. And I mean, it was kind of a dogfight. I mean, Indiana, they were scrappy. They were given everything that they had. And I mean, the thing that bothers me, and I say bothers me because it worries me some, is post game. I mean, you've seen it during the game, and you've discussed this on our last show by watching the Buckeyes when they're shooting, and they don't have any legs underneath them. Is that they are tired? They are really, really tired. I mean, is this week off going to be able to get them to get legs back underneath them in order for possibly a Friday, a Saturday, and a Sunday games?
So it's going to help a lot, but we're really going to know their conditioning on Saturday when they've just played a Friday game. I'm assuming they win that game, and we'll talk about who they're going to end up playing in a moment. But they're going to be playing a fairly tough opponent on Saturday. They're going to be putting in a lot of effort. And having just played what'll probably be a pretty tough game on Friday, they're probably going to be tired again. So it'll be interesting to see how they look on Saturday. By Sunday, I think everybody's going to be tired at that point, especially after the grueling season. So, yeah, I think we'll know more on Saturday. I expect that a full week off will do them a lot of good. I'm sure the coaches, especially after Holtman mentioned that the players were tired, I'm certain that they're going to make certain to give them a lot of rest. They're probably going to watch a lot of film and not do as much on the court practicing. They'll probably dial that back a little bit to try to ease things up. But it'll be interesting to see. Incidentally, going back to the Indiana game really quick, I predicted that game pretty well. I'm just throwing it out there.
You said they were going to lose, but okay.
I did say that I expected them to lose.
They tried.
With 7.5 seconds left,
they tried.
Were down one, right? They tried very hard to lose that game. So here's what I really wanted to point out, and maybe I didn't say it in the last podcast, and I should have. The way the previous Indiana game went spoke a lot to me about how this game was going to go. If you recall the first Indiana game, we jumped out to a big lead right at the start, and then the rest of the game, it was 30 minutes of just sheer boredom, because it was Team A goes down the court, scores a basket. Team B goes down the court, scores a basket. Team A goes down the court, misses. Team B goes down the court, misses. No one really took hold. It wasn't a game of runs like you normally see in basketball. It was just sort of, they're pacing each other all the way down the clock until the game ended. It was very, very boring basketball. I was very surprised. But what it spoke to was that the teams were actually fairly evenly matched because they were both pacing each other. And so if Indiana hadn't let the Buckeyes get out to that big lead, maybe the pacing would have meant that game would have been very tight at the end. So going into Indiana, I expected a very tight game, and that's what I predicted, and that's what we got. We got it exactly the tight game I expected us to get.
Yeah, it seemed like it turned out to be a pretty good game, and I mean, one of the things that was really, I don't know, it seemed kind of weird to me was, and I'm trying to forgive me because for some reason I have totally forgotten how many minutes in overtime is.
5 minutes.
Okay, so I mean, in 10 minutes of play, that both teams scored almost, more than what they did a whole half of, 16 minutes or however many. It was weird that the pace picked up as far as the overtime, and there was more scoring in the overtime because it was like, 63-63 going into the overtime?
Into the first overtime.
In the first one. And then they ended
up. There was 17 points for the Buckeyes and 15 points for the Hoosiers in two overtimes.
That was it was kind of crazy. It was fun to watch. So, I mean, you go into anybody's arena, it's going to be a tough crowd, especially in the Big Ten. I mean, Indiana's always had that history. Purdue, we've seen what what their arena's like and how incensed their fans are. Wisconsin usually is, especially when they have a really good basketball team. That team up north, those guys are just, okay, we're not going to make fun of anybody, remember? So, I mean, it's just the Big Ten as far as basketball. I mean, it's always been really good, and I don't care if somebody says that it's a down year. It's whatever. The fans are still the fans, so it's always great atmospheres for the Big Ten to be able to play in, which kind of leads us to what we discussed last week and what we finally have the Big Ten regular season is completely over with, so we now have the official tournament rankings for all the teams. Ohio State finishes with the number 2 seed with their win over Indiana. Michigan State, they beat Wisconsin, they put up a heck of a fight.
They sure did. I
mean, that first half, they were down and out, and that second half, they came back, and they were fighting Sparty pretty good. And I was like, oh, hey, come on, Badgers.
Yeah, they felt put dirty. Up a good fight.
I felt dirty. You're rooting for the Badgers, so.
So you'll never catch me rooting for the Badgers. I was rooting against Sparty, is my preference. Rooting for the asteroid, if you will.
Right.
Yeah, the Badgers put up a really good fight. It was nice to see them end their season on, okay, they lost the game, but they're still ending on a somewhat high note. Given the way their season started, the team did not look particularly good. I mean, they ended up 9th in the Big Ten this year out of 14, which is obscenely low for Wisconsin. I don't remember the last time they finished in the finished below the top 5. Probably been about 20 years or something since that's happened.
Yes.
So this was definitely a down year for them. So it was nice to see them put up a big fight at home for their home crowd against the number 1 team in the Big Ten with an asterisk. We'll talk about that at some point. So yeah, no, it was a good basketball game. Congrats to Michigan State for winning the Big Ten championship regular season and claiming the number 1 seed in the Big Ten tournament.
Yeah, and Ohio State, like we said, they've got number 2 seed. It ended up shaking out. Purdue got the number 3 seed, which I didn't even watch their game to see what all happened with that one. So, because I think win or lose, they were guaranteed the 3 seed.
They were, and they were playing Minnesota. So,
and let's see here.
Nebraska is the 4 seed.
Yeah, I couldn't see it on here for some reason. Nebraska ended up being the 4 seed. So those 4 teams right there will not play until Friday. Michigan State will have the noon game. Then it looks like Nebraska will play right after them. And then
6:30 p.m. for Ohio State.
Yeah, 6:30 p.m. for Ohio State. And it looks like Purdue plays the game afterwards.
Yes, the nightcap that'll occur around 9 o'clock or so.
Yeah. And for the games that are happening on Wednesday, for the first round, it shook out to be, let's see, Iowa got number 12. Illinois got number 13, which kind of wasn't shocking. Rutgers is Rutgers at number 14. What's kind of shocking is because in the preseason, I was kind of thinking that Minnesota was going to be a better school. They finished 11th in the Big Ten. So
yeah, they had a rough season this year.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's due to youth or if they had injuries or what it was, but they just did not put it together this year. And boy, I'm really having a hard time talking tonight.
Or because their coach's last name is Patino. All right, so the winner of the the first game will be at 5:30 on the BTN network, and that's the Iowa-Illinois game. The winner of that game moves on to play Michigan, who is the number 5 seed, on Thursday. Rutgers-Minnesota game is a half hour after the game on Wednesday night, and the winner of that game will play number 6 Indiana. And then you have, for the Thursday game, you will have number 9 Wisconsin play number 8 Maryland. Like I said, the winner of Illinois-Iowa against number 5 Michigan. You got number 10 Northwestern, which kind of surprised me that they fell down to 10th, especially after making a tournament last year. And then they play number 7 Penn State. And then you have, like I said, Rutgers or Minnesota. The winner of that plays Indiana on Thursday. The winner of the Wisconsin-Maryland game plays Sparty on Friday. The winner of the Michigan-Iowa-Illinois game plays Nebraska. The winner of the Penn State-Northwestern plays Ohio State. And the winner of Rutgers-Minnesota plays Indiana. They play in Purdue.
Purdue gets the winner of Indiana-Minnesota.
Yeah, too many things here trying to go through this whole thing. So, I think, I don't know what your thoughts are as far as, do you have any predictions or thoughts of, going into the first couple of rounds before we get to Friday night?
So the first couple of rounds are going to be pretty interesting because there's a lot of, sort of up and down movement to the various teams. Iowa's playing better basketball. Illinois is kind of still trying to find themselves. But neither one of them has had a particularly good season, so I could see that game going either way, although I suspect Iowa will probably claim that victory. Rutgers and Minnesota, that's such a bottom feeder kind of game, and Rutgers has played good basketball in stretches this season, usually in, subset stretches of a particular game. Like they went on a good run against us to try to close the gap. Right before the half, about a week ago. Closed it to within 5, and then we ran away with the game after that. So it's possible that Rutgers could pull an upset, just like they did last year. I won't say anything more about that because I'm sure Buckeye fans have nightmares about it already. So there's some interesting games here, but I expect that there won't be too much intrigue going into Friday night. The top ranked teams are probably positioned pretty well to claim victory, so I don't think we'll see too many upsets. I don't see any reason why we won't see Purdue and Indiana playing on Friday night. I don't see any reason why Penn State won't be able to handle Northwestern and get a third shot at Ohio State. Michigan is playing their best basketball of the season. I actually expect them to make a deep run. Whether or not they'll be able to take out Michigan State on Saturday remains to be seen, but they're at least playing good enough basketball to warrant keeping an eye on. The only true upset and quote unquote true upset, they're one seed apart. I expect Wisconsin is playing good enough basketball to beat Maryland. Maryland's sort of been a dumpster fire towards the end of this season, trying to figure things out after all their season-ending injuries. So I expect to see Wisconsin taking on Michigan State again Friday night. So should be a fairly interesting tournament. But how do you see things shaking out?
Yeah, I'm kind of along the same lines. I know that there is a lot of Ohio State fans when you just said we're going to probably see Penn State against Ohio State, and a lot of Ohio State fans are like, "Oh, they won our tournament." Sure, yeah, because they beat us twice. I mean, on a crazy shot to end of the game here in Columbus, and the butt whooping in Happy Valley or whatever you want to call it. But I mean, it's going to be a neutral floor, and they're going to be, Penn State's a young team, and I know that they get up and they play against Ohio State, but I think that having the extra day of rest is going to be able to hopefully play an advantage for Ohio State because they do have more talent than what Penn State has. So I'm just, hopefully that Northwestern gives Penn State a really good game so that way those guys are tired when they go and play on Friday night.
Yeah, I think Northwestern can give Penn State a fight and make them earn it. Of course, I'd like to see Northwestern pull that upset so that we can play them for a second time this season. But there are a few thoughts I have about that Penn State game. You're spot on the money that hopefully the Buckeyes can be more rested for that Penn State game. It's worth pointing out that the first time we played Penn State at home, we were coming off of 6 games in 14 days or something like that. I can't remember the stat I read. Something close to that.
Yeah, it was something crazy.
They were right on the tail end of a really crazy period in the season. So they sort of caught us at the right time. They also shot 80% from 3-point land for that game, which is just astronomical, out of this world. So I have no doubt that if Penn State had played at Ohio State in a more reasonable season, right? If we hadn't compressed the season quite as much, and they hadn't come out shooting 80%, we probably would have won that game, right? So that's point one. Point two is that when we played them the second time, we're playing them at their place, so there's a little bit of a balance there. But also, we were again playing them after we were getting tired. So the Buckeyes came out in that game, and they shot 0 for 7 from 3-point land to start that game. You're not in the first half, the whole first half. We didn't hit a single 3-pointer. That's really going to sink your chances against a good team. And, you said that you don't think Penn State has quite as much talent as the Buckeyes. I actually disagree with that. I think they have a similar amount of talent to the Buckeyes. I don't remember if it was Holtman or someone else who said that they have 3 potential NBA stars on their roster right now, which is quite surprising for Penn State basketball. But Penn State has been a really solid team this year. They've surprised some teams. They've played good basketball. So at the end of the day, I think they sort of caught us at the right time, right? They just got us in the right positions in the season to be able to do bad things to us. And there's one other point I want to make. I actually commented on this on Twitter, and I had someone come back at me because 97.1 The Fan had actually done an analysis of this. I wanted to make a counterpoint. And, of course, since 97.1 The Fan is a radio program, I'll counterpoint them on the radio. So there is a comment about meeting a team 3 times in basketball. And the usual comment is it's very hard to beat a team the 3rd time when you face them. So apparently 97.1 did an analysis of this and said, it's something like 75% of the time when 2 teams meet each other 3 times, 75% of the time, the team that has won twice will win the 3rd game. Okay, I'm really curious how they did their analysis, because I suspect what they did is they just did a very quick, how many times have teams faced each other 3 times, and how many times did one team win it 3 times, and how many times did they win it twice and then lose the 3rd? You got to be a little bit more careful than that, because sometimes you play a team 3 times and you beat them the first 2, and that team is the bottom feeder in the conference, right? And so you meet them the 3rd time and you beat them again because you're just the better team. The real question is, how does that look when the 2 teams are fairly evenly matched, like I view Ohio State and Penn State are fairly reasonably matched? I think the numbers actually settle a little closer to a 50-50, which still doesn't prove the point that it's hard to beat them the 3rd time, because a 50-50 coin flip with 2 even teams is about what you'd expect. But I did want to point out that I'm not convinced that 97.1 The Fan did their fans justice with that analysis. I think they probably didn't do a full reasonable job of that data analysis. So that's the physicist in me talking. Feel free to ignore it as you wish. But I suspect that Penn State will find it very difficult to defeat the Buckeyes this time around. The Buckeyes are going to be particularly well motivated not to let them get another win. They're going to be particularly motivated now that they have some time to look at that game, to look over and review the previous games, see what they can do better, try to game plan for Penn State a little bit better, and maybe do a better job of stepping up and playing a good basketball game.
Well, anytime I hear that it's hard to beat a team 3 times in one season, I always have a flashback to the Cleveland Browns against the Pittsburgh Steelers, and the Pittsburgh Steelers beating the Browns for the 3rd time in the playoffs. I forget what year it was, but it was still scarring, so I take that kind of stat and throw it completely out the window. And the only reason that I'm going to give Ohio State the edge is hopefully this time they aren't the tired team and Penn State's going to be the tired team. So the shoe's going to be on the other foot this time for them in this regard for the tournament. Which
I hope that's the case.
Which hopefully, in all honesty, if Ohio State knocks out Penn State, that is going to shut the door for them on getting into the NCAA tournament, I do believe. Would you agree with that?
I don't know that Penn State gets into the tournament if they have a 3rd win against Ohio State. They might need to make it to the finals.
That's what I was going to say. I mean, I think that if they win against Ohio State, they'll also need to continue on. But
yeah. But if Ohio State beats them, that absolutely shuts the door.
This will shut the door on them. And I think, go ahead.
Right now, the NCAA bracketology seem to suggest the Big Ten's only getting 4 or 5 teams at most into the NCAA tournament. Penn State's right now at number 7, so they would have to climb 2 or 3 spots and be better than Michigan and Nebraska. And actually, right now
they have Michigan They have Michigan like 100% in, and Nebraska's on the bubble, I do believe.
Yes. Which tells you a lot that the number 4 team in the Big Ten is on the bubble for the NCAA tournament. So Penn State is 3 spots out from making it into the NCAA tournament, getting a spot. I think they actually have to win the tournament to be able to get in at this point.
And I think Nebraska's only good win is against Michigan earlier in the season.
Yep.
So I think that's what hurts Nebraska, even though that they finished above Michigan because they had that head-to-head and they demolished Michigan was early in the season, but that was their only good win. They didn't have any other good wins. And that you need that kind of stuff.
And they played a fortuitous schedule too.
Right, and you need that kind of stuff going into the tournament. Now they possibly, if they were to run off and win the tournament, they obviously whoever wins the tournament's got a shot. Now, if Michigan State goes off and wins the tournament and they won the Big Ten regular season, they possibly looking at a number 1 seed in the tournament over in the NCAA tournament overall, which will be kudos for them. They've won, I think, 13 or 14 in a row right now. They are the hot team, and I don't know. It'd be interesting to see how it all plays out because, everybody's sitting there as far as Sparty fans, like, they are the team that's going to win it all. Then you have Michigan fans who, when they've won 4 or 5 in a row now, they're supposedly the hot team in the Big Ten and they're going to run off and win this tournament. Whatever. But, I mean, we've got Ohio State. We said they're guaranteed to be in. Michigan is going to be into the NCAA tournament. Sparty's there, and so is Purdue. But as far as the rest of the tournament breaks down, I mean, we're probably predicting that it's going to be Michigan State against Michigan, Ohio State against Purdue, and then, I mean, that's what you're going with?
Yeah, that would be my most likely expectation. And then for the championship game, I'm actually going to predict Michigan versus Purdue. I think Purdue will beat Ohio State on Saturday. I think that loss at home is probably going to motivate them to pay a little bit more attention to us. And then I expect Michigan to beat Michigan State to try to claim a spot in that championship game. Even though Michigan State is on a 13-game winning streak, I think they might be getting a little complacent. And I think Michigan's playing a little bit hotter. And I think they want to just make absolutely certain they get in the tournament. So having a win over Michigan State would absolutely ensure that, they're predicted right now to be 100% in, but they're the last team in the Big Ten in right now. You want a little bit of comfort. You want another comfort win to help you ensure that. So Michigan might be especially game for Michigan State, although they'll be playing their 3rd game in 3 days. And given how grueling this season has been, that might end up costing them too. So it'll be interesting to see. But I expect it'll be Purdue and Michigan for the title.
Well, since you have said that, I am going to bust out some Bart Torvik Big Ten tournament simulators that he has on his site. And based on, I mean, we already know, how everybody's seated. So he has right now, let's see, Michigan State an 87.8% to make the semifinals, a 72.6% to make the finals, and a 49.7% to make the championship game. So he has Michigan State winning the Big Ten championship.
On a coin flip. He's giving them a coin flip to win it. Just a hair shy of a coin flip.
Well, they have the better odds for him.
They have the better odds.
Yeah.
But it's still a coin flip right now.
And you have Ohio State 75.1% to make the semis, 37.8% to make the finals, and 13.9% to make to win the championship. So you say there's a chance. Purdue 91.9% to make the semis, 55.8% to make the finals, and 28.6% in order to win the championship. So he's got them a little better than a coin flip and beating Ohio State. Then you have Nebraska at 49.1% for the semis, 9.1% for the finals, and 1.6% to win the Big Ten tournament. Michigan is a 48.3% to win the semis, so he actually has Nebraska favored over Michigan, which is interesting.
Is that true?
Well,
yeah. Oh no. Double check that again. What was Nebraska's percentage again?
49.1%.
And Michigan's was
48.3%.
So he has Nebraska slightly favored. The reason why neither one is above 50 is because there's a slight chance that Iowa or Illinois could break through.
Yeah, he's got Penn State at 22.7% for the semis.
So roughly 1 in 5, 1 in 4, halfway between.
And then for
4.5.
Yeah, for the finals, he has Michigan at a 14.4%.
To make the finals?
To make the finals. And a 4.3% chance to win it. He has Rutgers at a 0% chance to win the Big Ten tournament, Northwestern, Minnesota, Iowa, Illinois, Rutgers, he has 0%, Wisconsin 0.1%, Maryland 0.6%, Penn State 1%, Indiana 0.3%, Michigan 4.3%, Nebraska 1.6%.
Wow.
So it seems like that there's definitely this year, it looks like that the favorite team is going to, as far as the ranking, it should fall out the way that it is. But we are on the cusp of March basketball. And you know what March basketball means?
Insanity.
Cinderella.
I was just thinking, Penn State.
This year might not be a lot of Cinderellas.
Yeah, might not be. But Penn State has regularly made deep runs in the Big Ten tournament, sometimes at the expense of Ohio State, sometimes at the expense of other teams. So it'll be interesting to see if they can do it again this year. I'm certainly counting on them not doing it, but it's certainly possible. Yeah, after you read off those odds, I'm actually liking my Purdue-Michigan pick a little bit better.
Always got to go against the grain.
Yeah, of course.
So yeah, that's going to be how the Big Ten tournament, which starts this Wednesday. So we are releasing this show on Wednesday, which means then while you listen to this, hopefully you're going to be listening to or watching the games tonight, or you're going to start watching the games tomorrow on Thursday. And don't forget, Ohio State's playing at 6:30 on BTN and on Friday against the winner of Northwestern and Penn State game. Do you have anything else?
Go Pretty Kitties.
I also wanted to, I've been working on, I have some audio from, I think Tony said it was Jim Davidson's video, and forgive me if I'm wrong, I had to fix that. But I took the audio from the senior night that he recorded, and I've been playing with it and putting some music behind it, and hopefully, I will have going on with towards the end of this show here as a thank you and a farewell to the seniors. And I just wanted to say, as a fan myself, thank you to Andrew Dockage for coming to Ohio State and helping his team out. Thank you to Jashawn Tate and everything that you've done, and seeing, his story on the journey, just really, that was, if anybody seen that, it was kind of, he kept it quiet, and it's been hard for him to discuss about, but losing his mother at a young age and dealing with all of that. So, my hat's off to him and what he's gone through and what he has succeeded doing here at Ohio State. I'd like to say thank you to Cam Williams for everything that he's done while he's worn the scarlet and gray, and a big thank you to Keita Bates-Diop. Going out on top as far as being Big Ten Player of the Year, first team All Big Ten, and made this team this year extremely enjoyable to watch. And hopefully our journey is still going to be going on for another month and a half or so.
Good thoughts. I agree with every one of them.
So with that, we just want to, thank you for listening to the Silver Bullets podcast on the Ozone Radio Network. Forget to subscribe and download or listen to our shows on iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud, Stitcher, YouTube, TuneIn, and if you can, just leave us a review. So we will talk to you guys next week. We'll have a show. I know Eric won't be available; he will be busy. So I'll have to put together a show and discuss looking at the tournament thoughts, because I think that Sunday when you come back is when we'll have Selection Sunday, so we'll be able to do a show talking about where Ohio State is at and who they have to play and everything like that. So hopefully next week we can get a preview.
The crappy seating and the crappy bracket they're in and blah, blah, blah. That always seems to be the story of the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, I read somewhere, and I forget who put it out there, and they were like, let's not forget that the one thing that hurts Ohio State as far as being able to play at home a lot or close to home is how many different schools are in the area. But at the same time, I'm sorry, but if you're having a better team than, say, a Dayton or a I'm just using it as an example, like Xavier or whoever, then you should be able to have first dibs over, having home court or closer home court than these others, instead of putting Ohio State out on the West Coast all the darn time. So with that, thanks for listening, and go Bucks.
Go Bucks.
Be a Buckeye daddy.
But I'm going to take a minute with each guy and just I wrote some notes because they're important to us. And I think when I think about Andrew, it's been well documented how he got here and how crazy this experience was for him to be here in late summer and to be available. And it's been a real jolt of energy for our program. And I'm incredibly proud of him. In film sessions, we laugh sometimes at Andrew's one-handed transition finishes that sometimes are successful and sometimes not so successful. But he's a guy right now that has played 20-plus minutes, averaged 20-plus minutes on a team that's guaranteed to finish in the top. He is a daggone good player. We would not be in this position without Andrew Dockage. Andrew, take the away.
First off, just want to thank you guys. This year has been incredible. When I knew this team had something special, it came down 20. We didn't quit. We were in this position. We were going a little 7-0 run, cut to 13, and then the second half was ours. And at that moment, we go 2-0 the Big Ten. We get things rolling a little bit, and man, it's been a hell of a journey. We staying 14-3. Talking to you guys, just getting to know the nut house and everything like that. We're bugs. You guys are awesome. Were the people that camped out last night, are they here still? Man, that's awesome. That sparks us. That gets us going. So I can't thank you guys enough. I'll try to be short here, but I got to thank some people. Coach Holman and staff. I'm a 6'2", white, slow walker. I'm probably the most unathletic. The most unathletic player in Division I basketball history. But Coach Holman to believe in me and this coaching staff is just incredible. If the media sees our first-year head coach come in and they bring a walk-on who didn't play a lick at the team up north, it's a contributor on the team, you would think he's crazy. I thought he was crazy too, but man. Coach, I can't appreciate you enough for giving me an opportunity to play here. Before I talk about the last team, I want to talk about this team right here, Team 119. Joey Lane was the first one to reach out to me. And we're kind of like ourselves, we got this walk-on thing going, so he probably hates me from coming from the team up north. But man, just getting to know that kid, showing me around campus, and just introduce me to all the guys. And I got to talk about the leadership from JT, Cam, and Kata. They didn't have to accept me. They knew my stat line was as good as my sister's. I didn't know anything. My sister doesn't play. I don't know what else to say. But to accept me, for them to, they didn't have to. They could have gone to Coach Holman and said, look, we could go a different direction with this, and we don't want this kid on our team. We're good with what we. But for them to, accept me in that locker room, man, it's been a hell of a journey, man. I can't thank y'all enough from all of my heart. And lastly, my parents, they're here tonight. Jackie White, my beautiful mother, my sister. She's off limits, so don't even think about him. Don't even think about it. I know what y'all are thinking. But no, you know, and my grandmother and stepmother, Kathy White and Steve Ross, you know, these, I mean, just coming, my mom, you know, she lived in Florida, but she's missed this year, and it's just been, you know, she flies to every single game. Comes, does my laundry, she just did my laundry today. And according to these guys on my team, I'm 35 years old, so for her to take care of my laundry is something special. So Mom, I appreciate you, I love you so much, I can't make you enough. I'll wrap it up, I know we got some things to go. My dad's probably the most controversial human being in this arena right now. But my dad, you know, he predicted this. He predicted this kind of stuff, that we'd have this kind of success. And nobody thought so. So, you know, for him, you know, he encourages me every day. He motivates me every single day. And I'm so appreciative of you guys. For accepting me this year. And we're not done yet. Hold on.
Ladies and gentlemen, Andrew Dawkins.
In our minds, and I think everybody's minds in this arena, Big Ten Player of the Year right there. We've got work to do, but he's proven it over and over. Listen, I'll keep this short. Beyond stats that Kada has amassed this year, they're incredibly impressive. I mean, they're as impressive as can be in college basketball. Beyond all that he's done on the floor, and it's so much, I think that we as a coaching staff have been even more impressed with who he is as a human being, who he is as a student, who he is as a person. He and JT and Cam felt obligation, almost a responsibility to make this year a special one because of how much he cares for this place. And it showed, yeah. And I'm telling you, as soon as we started talking to him, we got the job. You can see that with him. He wanted this to be a special year. And it's been nothing but a special year. A major reason why. Okay, come on and talk to him. Right.
Great.
First shot of JT. When we moved in to our dorm, he was the first to talk to me from then on. We've had a bond ever since then. This was my roommate, my brother through this all our ups and downs, all our surgeries, all our wins, all our losses. JT, I want to thank you for always being there by my side. My ups and downs. Thank Coach Holden for believing in not just me, but JT, Cam, and everybody else out here when he came. He had a tough job. Came off of bad season last year. A bunch of guys he left. He believed in our small group of guys that we could do something special this year. We're not done yet, but so far, I mean, he said, I'm the player of the year, you're the coach of the year, in my opinion. my wonderful family, my mom, my dad, Ty, and everybody else that's been here for us, man. I truly do love this place. This is my home now. I'll forever cherish. However long I'm here in Columbus, you guys took me in with open arms and accepted me for who I am. And all my ups and downs and my inconsistent play, the losses, everything. You guys have always stuck good for me, and I love this. Go Bucks.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Congratulations, Cam, on your senior night. You did it. Love you. Yay.
You know, Cam is, and we knew this right away, our first couple of weeks on the job. I think our coaching staff would agree. Cam is one of the hardest working guys that we have. A tremendous work ethic. Cam, you are an unbelievable worker. And I think back to that Michigan game here. Down one, late in the game. They're zoning us. You have a wide open look, you do your patented shot fake, one dribble pull up. We end up winning the game. We're not in this position without you, Cam. We're not. I know he and others will agree that we've got a lot of work, but we couldn't be more proud of you, Cam. Take it away here, my man.
What's up, everybody? It's a lot of people here. First off, I just want to say none of this is possible without the man upstairs, God. I talk to him, every single day. I have to. Baltimore, Maryland, you saw me skinny king, no teeth. They're saying the worst of everything. But my parents, my mom, Lori Green, and my dad, Kevin Williams, they got me through everything. Growing up, without them, I'm not in this position that I'm here right now. To the coaching staff, to Coach Holtman, came here, we were a little wary about, how we wanted to, spend our last year. We wanted to go out with a bang, but we didn't really think it was possible. But, as we spent more and more time, together, with Coach Holtman, Coach Pito, Shrine, Coach T, and everybody else, as games went on, we started believing. We started believing in, the system, and I just want to say thank you. Every game. Wins and losses, you guys still come out and support us, through the thick and thin. I just want to say thank you to Buckeye Nation, thank you to the Nuthouse. I want to thank Zane, the best athletic director, in the nation, for all his support. He does an unbelievable job. And, once again, I just want to say thank you for everybody that's in here. Once again, thank you to my parents. Once again, thank you to the coaching staff. And,
You've been an inspiration to your brother, your sisters, and myself. I just want to salute you on your final game at the Ohio State University in South State Center. I'm so proud of you, and I love you.
Hey, Jay Sean, it is me, your grandfather. I am so thrilled to have the opportunity to say a couple words. I am so proud of you.
Can't wait to see what you do in the future. Me and Chubbs are so proud of you and love you so much.
How much are you going to miss this guy, huh? Absolute warrior. He is an absolute warrior. I think when we, as a coaching staff. This place, and you can tell it, and we can tell it right away, this university, this place, the people here, you all mean so much to him. And I can't tell you what a luxury it is as a new coach when you can be led by a guy and you can talk to him and you can say, hey, JT, that's not what winning teams do, right? And he communicates it to other guys, but he communicates it to everybody else. What an incredible luxury it is. I'll never forget, and I've said this a couple times on the radio, Cada has 35 against Illinois. What a night. Incredible night. The camera is following the line here as teams are shaking hands. The guy with the biggest smile giving him a bear hug. That's a guy who knows how to lead right there. JT, it's clear you love this place, and this place loves you back, my man. Take it away.
They put, but I'm gonna be strong up here. First, I want to thank my family, man, my support cast. You know, y'all, without y'all, I would not be here. You know, they say they took a visit, they really did. So, you know, I thank y'all for that. You know, I thank my dad for, just teaching me the game, teaching me what he knows, and just being there for me along the way. I'm gonna go over here to Cada. Like you said, when we came in, we were just, us and D-Russ and Dave Bell, and we're still type of those guys, but, me and you always been the closest. You was my next door roommate. You've been with me every step of the way. We've been through so much adversity together, and I don't think I'd be here, and we wouldn't be here together if it wasn't for you, man. I love you, for real. Coming to Ohio State, it was just a blessing. I remember, I was just happy to get, one offer from a low major D2 school, and I'm like, hey man, I made it. So, I gotta give credit, for Coach Mata, for bringing me here. They still pick me up today, just keep track of us. It's okay, giving me nuggets to eat off of. And Coach Hope, it's a lot to say. I already told you guys in the meeting, I think the guy's psychic. He knows everything about everything. He knows what I'm going through. He knows when to put me in his office. He knew from the start when to take me under his wing. And I thank you so much for trusting me to lead this team and trusting in this team to, have an impact this year and not using this year as a wash, man. And I love all you guys, but we're family. You guys hit me up almost every day. I get a text from one of y'all. And just having that support cast that y'all care about me and y'all think about me, yeah, it's great. Just taking me in, believing in what I'm saying, and trying to get it across, man. Without y'all, I
want to be there at the end of the day. And lastly, Nut House, Buckeye Nation. Thanks, Ron. It's been a lot of ups and downs the last 4 years, but I'm just so blessed to play with this across my chest, man. I want y'all to know every night I sit in this court, I gave him my all. No buts.
Ladies and gentlemen, and how about a big round of applause for you?